Hey everybody, welcome back to another action figure unboxing and review, Star Wars Black Series edition. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight from Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary. I got this a few months ago, but it's been sitting in my pile of haven't gotten to yet figures to go through. Him and Darth Vader, who I'll be reviewing on Friday, but they won the community poll last week, so I'm doing them this week. And first, we'll take a look at the card. I've already opened it, as you can see, but just to make it easier to get out, because I don't like tearing the blister all the way off the card. So that way I can store it back like this if I wanted to. So you can see the card here. The stock of this card's pretty decent, as you can see. It's not as thick as the Marvel retro cards are, or the new classified retro cards, but it's thicker than the original classified retro cards that were always getting bent. So it's like in between those two. It's still decent thickness though, but I think this would easily get wrecked in a small box, unlike the Marvel or the new classified. And then on the back, you can see all that legalese on the bottom, and then there's a little blurb from the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, and then you had the other figures that came out in this wave. I got all of them except for the Rebel Commando, because I'm not collecting all the figures from the original trilogy in Black Series. I'm only collecting the main heroes as well as the Empire. And he's neither. He's not a main hero, and he's not an Imperial, so he doesn't get counted. I'll get to the Royal Guard at some point, but I got him months ago, so he's been done. And like I said, I'm doing Vader on Friday. R2 is still sitting up here on my shelf waiting to be reviewed. And I did put him up for an option on the poll, and he'll go up on the next week's poll as well, or I should say this week's poll, because it was released Sunday, so he's on that poll, but we'll see if he wins. In any case, let me just pull this out. Now I've already taken him out and put him through his paces. So if you already had this figure, you'll notice that his shirt's different. Because usually before you open him, he's wearing this piece instead of the one I got him on. I got him on now. I took him out, put him through the paces. I checked to see how easy it was to put the shirt piece on, and then I decided to leave him or put him back in the package like this, because this is how the shirt is normally in the movie. It only switches to this when he gets to Endor. So this is how he looks when he's in Jabba's palace, except for this. But he didn't put the glove on until he was flying away from Tatooine after destroying Jabba. He put the glove on because he got his hand shot during the sail barge assault. And so when he was flying back to Dagobah in his X-Wing, he picked up the glove and put it on. And that's when he started wearing the glove. He wore it for the rest of the movie, but he didn't have that in an opening scene at Jabba's palace. But this is the definitive Empire. This is the definitive Return of the Jedi Luke. This is the Luke that everybody remembers from that movie in the all-black uniform. It would have been cool if they had given us a cloth robe like he wore when he first entered Jabba's palace with this figure, but they didn't go that route, unfortunately. Of course, like I mentioned, he wasn't wearing the glove at Jabba's, so having the robe plus the glove would have been a continuity error if you care about that. If you care that much about it. I'm just pointing it out because it's true, and not because I really deep down think that, damn it, There's no way they should have him with a glove and the robe. There's some nice... There's not much paint, obviously. This is all black plastic. The only color at all is on his belt, aside from the head, obviously, the head and neck and his left hand. There's some silver... There's a silver buckle here, a couple studs over there, and then the hook for his lightsaber and that loop, and some more studs there. So that's all the extra paint you're going to get. And that's easy to do. When there's so little paint, it's easy to just go all out and do the little buttons and studs and whatnot. Let's see. He's got a decent head sculpt. As we well know, Mark Hamill is not an easy actor to get a head sculpt for some reason. There's just something about his face that doesn't translate well to plastic. Unlike, say, Harrison Ford, who translates pretty well to plastic, I would say. But this is a pretty decent Hamill, in my opinion. I mean, this obviously looks like him. If you took this head off the body and handed it to someone and said, who do you think that is? They would probably guess Luke Skywalker or Mark Hamill. But even if they just guessed Luke Skywalker, that's good enough because, you know, for a lot of people, Luke Skywalker and Mark Hamill are interchangeable. You don't really, when you imagine Luke Skywalker in your mind, you don't think of anybody's face but Mark Hamill's. So it's a pretty good head sculpt. I'm not too sure about the hairstyle they chose. I guess it looks, yeah, it does kind of look like the shot in Return of the Jedi. I didn't remember him having the bangs hanging down that close to his eyes. But I guess I was misremembering things. I thought that looked more like a New Hope or Empire haircut, but the 3 movies are only 6 years apart, so the hairstyle probably didn't change all that much. He's got that little pouch there on the belt as well. But that's about it. The rest of the uniform is just all black. Very little detail other than wrinkles and stuff like that. No extraneous detail. The belt does feel like it's attached to something, maybe glued. It does lift up a little bit here, but it's stiffer here. Like it might be glued to the front. I can't move it, that part, so I'm not gonna try. All right, so going over articulation. Okay, I couldn't get his head off. I just took the neck off instead, so I'm not even gonna bother. But there's a dumbbell joint in the neck area, and as you can see, the neck includes that little collar piece that comes off along with it. I can tell pretty much just by posing his head that he doesn't have a hinge. So he can look that far forward, he can look that far up. He's got the Exorcist, he can do a lot of tilting, which is good. His arm can go all the way around. He's got a butterfly joint there, and this is a pretty good one, I think. He can get his arms, yeah, that one's a little stiffer. But if you turn his elbow a bit like that, and then you can move his hands up like that, you can get him in a across his body lightsaber pose. Like cross this side, or cross to the other side if you wanted. You could get him in different lightsaber poses, which is good for a lightsaber wielding figure, obviously. So bicep, or the butterfly joints, are definitely appreciated for this figure. He does have pinless elbows, but they're single jointed. But he can go up quite a bit past 90 because of, you know, lack of a major big bicep in the way. Plus they're cut pretty deep in the forearm. So that's a good thing when the when you only have a single jointed elbow, if you cut the hinge deep enough into the forearm, you can usually get a decent range out of it. Oh, and he can T-pose up to 90 degrees. He doesn't have any kind of ab or diaphragm cut. So you're limited in your, his hands as well. He's got the up-down hinge on the right hand and on the left. So even though he's mainly a lightsaber wielder in this movie, I don't think he uses a handheld blaster at all, except for that scene in Jabba where he pulls it out of the guard's hand. But I can't remember if he actually got I think maybe he got a shot off into the ceiling. The Gamorrean guard grabbed him and pulled his hand up before they both dropped into the Rancor pit. But I think that's the only time in the entire Return of the Jedi film that he actually is holding a blaster. Now, he does use the blaster, obviously, on a speeder bike during that chase sequence, but I don't think he physically holds another blaster, rifle, or pistol in the rest of the film. So giving him an up-down hinge is kind of weird. I would have expected a side-to-side hinge for a lightsaber wielder. Anyway, back to the waist. He does not have any kind of... This is all solid plastic, no joint. But then when you take off the shirt piece, that's why he doesn't have an ab crunch or a diaphragm. They wouldn't have been able to do this shirt part if he had one. So he only moves at the waist, but he can move about that far forward, about that far back. He can turn, and he's got a lot of twists there, a lot of tilt. So he's probably got like a ball joint up under there, I'm guessing. He can spread his legs out about that far, not a Van Damme at all. Black Series doesn't do drop down hips. He can kick out about that far, not quite Rocket material. He can go back about that far. He does have a thigh cut on both sides. He doesn't have a boot cut, but he has a swivel at the knee joint, and he's got the pinless but single jointed knee there, which is pretty standard for Star Wars Black Series. They don't use double joints for the elbows or the knees. His foot can peg almost all the way back. So good ballerina. Can't peg forward that far. It does swivel, and he's got peg holes on the bottom if you want to put him on a stand. So for accessories, as you saw, I can take his shirt piece off so that this is the Jabba scene shirt piece, and I can stick on the Endor or the Battle of Endor, really, shirt piece that he has when he's fighting Vader in the throne room on the Death Star with the flap hanging out. This is how he appears in the packaging, actually, but like I said, I switched it out to this one because he's dressed like this in the beginning of the movie, and this is what he looks like in the second half of the film. But it's easy enough. You just line it up and stick it in there, and it holds pretty well. And it comes off pretty well, pretty easily as well. It's kind of not like there's a gap there, but as long as you're not displaying him or showing him in a camera like this, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. He is a Jedi, so obviously he's going to come with a lightsaber, and this is a nice looking blade, nice green blade, which of course, as normal with Black Series, you can unpeg the blade and just be left with the hilt. And this is Luke's lightsaber as it looks in the film. Very good recreation of it in 1/12 scale. It's got some gold on the top there and gold here by the handle, as well as black and silver along that part of the handle, the part of the grip. And it's got silver at the top and silver for most of the bottom part in the casing. And of course, it has a hook right there, so you can pop it on his belt. And there he is, all ready to go. And of course, Luke Skywalker is iconic figure, and this was an iconic look for him. Yeah, he's got, there we go. All that light was shining off his face. Definitely the definitive version of Return of the Jedi Luke, at least for the Hasbro Black Series line. There's probably better ones from Mafex, or I don't think Mezco's done a Jedi Luke, but I think Mafex might have. So I wouldn't say this is the best version of Return of the Jedi Luke, but it's the best version that I have. And I'm probably not going to be collecting high-end Star Wars figures. I'm probably going to stick to just, high-end for G.I. Joe, like the Mezco 112 G.I. Joe figures I've been collecting, and the Mafex Marvel characters that I've collected so far. Although I did pick up the Mafex Vader, but I was, I wouldn't say I was disappointed by it, but I was underwhelmed a little bit. I still think it's a little better than the Hasbro Vader in some respects, but it's also not as good in others, if that makes any sense. It's kind of a mixed bag. But I don't think I'll be getting any other Mafex Star Wars figures. I'm going to stick to the Marvel ones for Mafex. And probably DC as well. So here you have Luke. Return of the Jedi Luke. And let's see. I don't want to end the video with him in a neutral pose. Let's try to get him into a nice combat stance. Now, Return of the Jedi, of course, came out in 1983. I went and saw it in the theaters with my dad. One of my fondest memories. I saw the first two films with him as well. Although A New Hope came out before I was born, so I didn't see the original release of A New Hope with my dad. But there were re-releases at points when the other ones were coming out, so I was able to see those, see the original when I saw the re-releases. So I have seen the original in the theater before Greedo shot first, and I've seen the original Empire in the theaters when it was Clive Revel as the voice of the Emperor instead of when they changed it to make it Ian McDiarmid. And of course, Return of the Jedi before they added all the extra Sarlacc effects and whatnot. I didn't try hard to get him into a decent pose. As good as it's gonna get for a quick double-handed pose before the video ends. So let me know what you think. Comment down below, like and subscribe. Vader is on Friday, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you next time.